What is going on, guys? Sumner Healey, the land pioneer, coming at you with a brand new property video. We've got 5 acres out in Valencia County. And before we dive in and look at this property, I want to apologize. I just ran my very first ultra marathon, 50 kilometers. In the process, I got really sick. I'm a little stuffy, so if my voice sounds funky, bear with me. But this is a really special property that I wanted to share with you guys. We just threw it up on the website. 5 acres, Valencia County. It's about 35 minutes away from Albuquerque. We've got these 5 acres listed for just $99 down. One of those properties that I just know in my heart of hearts isn't going to last long. I want to make a video about it before it leaves. I'm a little bit fond of this area. I've got a bit of a love for this area right next to Mesa Redondo. And you can actually see it off in the distance in this photo here. We just had these photos taken exactly a week ago. Super current, and it's just absolutely stunning out here. These are all flat level properties out in a development called Highland Meadows. No, there's no HOA, there's no POA out here. This was an area that was, subdivided many moons ago and never necessarily boomed. But I think there's a lot of value to be found in a property like this, right? So if we peel over to the map here, we can see we're actually 41 minutes, 38 miles from the town of Albuquerque. That's gonna be like the main town out here. There's a little town called Mesita, but really the main amenities are gonna be found out here in Albuquerque or down in Los Lunas, although I think Albuquerque is a bit of a nicer town. So in terms of like Walmart and getting the general necessities, you'd find that all out in Albuquerque. And this is what we love to see, right? When we're selling properties, when we're buying properties to sell, or if I'm just buying properties to hold on to for myself, one of the things that I want to look at is proximity to a major metropolitan market, right? I don't want to be in the major metropolitan market. My love is rural, vacant, off-grid type land, but I still want to be close enough, right? I want to be in the path of progress. I want to be in an area where I know getting to a town is not too far away. I know there's an airport in that area, so if I had to fly in, and maybe I live out of state and I want to visit this property, a few times a year, well, I can fly into Albuquerque and then go head on out to the property. So that's a really nice feature to have, is that proximity to a metropolitan market. So that's one of the few things to love about this property. But I really want to peel through these photos with you. This is all flat level land. You can see that there's dirt roads that were cut in. They don't get a ton of traffic. There is some development out here. You'll see some homes that actually have been established. But for the most part, it's pretty darn rural out here. You're going to typically see neighbors like half a mile away in most instances, depending on where you sit within the development. And this is true for this property. So you do have dirt road access. Some of these dirt roads are going to be better than others. These all are platted legal roads. So they're all these properties have legal access to them, so you don't have to worry about that. But some of these roads are going to be a little bumpier than others. If you like doing some off-roading, you'll have some fun out here hitting some of these roads. But they're pretty good year-round. I mean, the temperature out here, the climate out here is pretty mild. It's going to get a little bit cooler in the winter this time of year. But for the most part, it's a really enjoyable spot to live. You'll see that these roads, though, they are a bit kind of loamy and sandy. So something that you want to be mindful of. You want to have a car that most likely has 4-wheel drive getting out here, or a truck that you just feel comfortable with. Even if it's 2-wheel drive, you kind of know its limits. So let's talk about, first off, let's touch on pricing, right? We got this property listed at $9,200 for the cash price, or finance it $99 down, $234 a month for 55 months, no prepayment penalty. Yes, there is a premium added on top of the cash price just based on the time value of money, but there's no additional interest added on top of that. If you like this property, of course, you can head over to the website. Link is down below. Click place down payment. We'll get it notified on our end, draft up all the documents, have that sent off in 1 business day. But before we do that, let's talk about what you can do on this property. So like I said, no HOA, no POA. You don't have to worry about crazy covenants. You don't have to worry about someone coming out and saying, hey, you got to trim your grass to this length. And better yet, you don't need to worry about those crazy annual HOA dues. So there's none of that. But of course, there's still restrictions, right? So we have to be mindful of that. These properties are all zoned rural residential. This is for a residential use case. If you wanted to go build a hotel, this is not the place to do it. If you wanted to start a small farm and have a bunch of livestock, this is also not the place to do it. So first thing that we're going to see is there's 1,000 square foot minimum for dwellings. That's important to know. I know some folks want to build a tiny home. If you're one of those super gung ho, tiny home, off grid people, you want to live in a 200 square foot cabin, this is not the spot for you. Although we do have other properties that are worth looking at. But this one's 1,000 square foot. What we find is most folks, this is pretty normal, right? It's once those minimum dwelling sizes start to creep up, 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 square feet, where people are like, that's a little too much for me. 1,000 square feet, though, most folks are going to live in a house of that size. The beautiful thing is manufactured homes are permitted. You're going to see manufactured homes out here. You can also build an ADU on the property. What that means is an accessory dwelling unit. So if you wanted to build a home and build a little ranchita, a little side cabin, you can do that on your property. You just got to get a permit from the county. Which is great. Essentially, you can have 2 units on one property. You can rent it out, or have family stay in it and whatnot. Like I said before, livestock is not permitted. If you want to have goats, sheep, chickens, all that good stuff, not the place to do it. Really, the ideal use case is, hey, someone wants to pull a manufactured home and live on this property full time, or rent it out, or maybe you just want a spot to kind of buy and hold. Duck your head down here when you come out to New Mexico. Go enjoy the natural features. If you're an outdoor enthusiast, you're going to love this spot. I mean, it's the most biodiverse state, or one of the most biodiverse states in all of the US. There's just a lot of different climates out here, a lot of microclimates, a lot of different flora and fauna that you're going to find out here. So if you like hunting, hiking, skiing, fishing, all that good stuff, this is really the spot that you're going to want to be hanging out. Beautiful thing is too, is there was a large cell tower actually put in within this development. So cell service is good out here. It's one of those things that you'll find on these rural residential properties or just rural properties in general, is that typically cell reception is hit and miss, right? And that can make it tricky because in a lot of cases, major internet providers aren't going to service these areas. And so a lot of folks are going to, rely on their cell phone while they're out here. And so having good reception is a real big value driver. In terms of utilities, let's talk about that. So solar or some kind of alternative setup, whether it be wind or whether it be a generator, it's going to be pretty common. Looks like the closest power pole is about a half a mile from the property. That's what I was seeing in terms of the maps, but you want to confirm just to be safe. Again, half a mile running a power pole, it can be quite expensive. And so going with something that's a little more sustainable for the planet and actually might end up being cheaper in the long run may make sense. Depends on what you're building out here. But I would say just based on the amount of sun that you get in this little pocket of New Mexico, solar would make a lot of sense. Or if you're on more of a budget, you could just hook up a generator. So water, there's no water lines out here. There's no city water. There's also no city sewer. And that's going to be pretty common on these properties. So you're looking at, first and foremost, definitely septic. You're not going to get away without that one. You're going to want to have septic out here on this property. And then in terms of water, well is going to be common, some kind of catchment system. I'm a big fan of the holding tanks and getting water delivered. It's one of the more economical options. You can get a couple 100 gallons for really no money at all. It's very, very affordable. You just need the infrastructure for the holding tank, which also doesn't cost a ton. But if you're looking to build a permanent residence, well, a well is probably a worthwhile investment, but it certainly is an investment. So it's something to think about. Nearby towns, we touched on that before. Albuquerque, that's about 40 miles. Los Lunas, 38 miles. And then Belen, New Mexico, 47 miles away from the property. Both Los Lunas and Belen, pretty small areas. Albuquerque, I think, is going to be your best bet for going to town and getting what you need out there. So really, I think that covers pretty much everything we'd want to touch on. Here's what we're looking at in terms of the Google Maps view. Here's where the property sits. Lucero Drive is going to be your main access point. It's one of the better roads out here. Or you could go on this unnamed road. As you'll see in the pictures, though, these roads, yes, they're platted. Yes, they have legal access. They just don't get much traffic on them. And so they're going to be pretty bumpy. What I would advise is taking what looks like Highland Boulevard, which kind of cuts into Lucero Drive, and then you can hook up right here. Your closest neighbor is right on the corner over here off of Lucero Drive, about half a mile from the property or so. So pretty vacant, pretty desolate out here. Back here is all, I believe, BLM or common land. So you're going to have views that are going to be essentially unbothered for the length of your ownership, right? You don't have to worry about someone building some nasty big monster building right here that cuts into your views. And then you've got the beauty, whoops, sorry about that, guys, of Mesa Redondo right here, Redonda. Pull up pictures. It's just such a really neat feature, really cool kind of piece to have as a backdrop out here. It's a special little spot, kind of a sacred place within New Mexico, if you will. And it's really nice to have this as a backdrop. I think it's pretty rare that you find properties at this price point that give you such a nice proximity to town while still giving that rural, remote feel and having an incredible backdrop. Mesa Redondo is a site worth seeing. In fact, what we'll do here is I'll come in and just drop a pin over here and give you guys a real-time look of what Mesa Redondo looks like once you're actually out here on the property. So we'll peel around. You can kind of get a sense of just how big it is. And there it is, kind of towering over. We've got Highland Meadows over here. The properties that are closest to the freeway here are the most developed, of course. Then as you get back further into the development, there's a little less development. Kind of a redundant way to phrase that. But as you get further back into Highland Meadows, there's just less development back there. To me, that is a benefit. Yes, you are going to have power lines a little bit closer up here, but I think being tucked away with fewer neighbors just makes more sense for this kind of property. Most folks that are buying something like this, well, they don't want to have a ton of neighbors around them, right? You're usually buying a property like this to get away, to have a place to isolate, to spend time with nature. And so I think it's actually really nice to be tucked away back there. And so, yeah, you can see Mesa Redondo up here. It's a behemoth. It's actually pretty impressive to see in person. So that's what we got, guys. Here's what some of the dirt roads look like. Again, some of these are better than others, right? And so it's something to be mindful of. You got some underground utilities over here. And you can see Mesa Redondo back off in the distance. So if you guys have any questions, as always, all the links are down below to this property. If you guys have any questions about any of the other properties that we have, feel free to head over to thelandpioneer.com, click on properties. You can see we've got a ton of new properties that we've just listed. Beautiful 2-acre lot out in San Bernardino, out by Joshua Tree. Got, of course, properties out in Costilla County, on and on and on. So we've got lots of stuff to go check out on the property or on the website. I think we've got a little over 40 vacant properties listed right now that are live, ready to go, just put up on the website. If you like any of the properties on the website, it's really simple. All you do is place a down payment, or you can reserve it, place the reservation fee. We'll get a notification on our end, draft up all the documents for you, and get the ball rolling from there. So appreciate you guys watching this video. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. This is where you can get a sneak peek on all the properties that are coming out on the website before anyone else does. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.